Fort Worth. I'm doing good.
How was the flight?
It was good.
Yeah?
I had cheese and fruit,
What else?
coffee. It was good.
All right. Good.
Why don't you let me take you?
No, I'm going to take me. I'm taking me. Bye-bye.
Oh, I see.
You thought that was a bullet hole, Mom?
Yes, and it looked like it was pointing at him. I went, wait, is something shooting at you? Okay, we're leaving Piccadilly's. This is a recording now. Okay, we're leaving Piccadilly's,
Mom,
and
you don't have to tell the
yesterday
people
we
that.
went to Gloria's.
You don't have to tell the people
the
that's
real
recording.
one. And Clifford
the real
insisted that
Gloria's.
we come to Piccadilly's.
Yes.
And the greens weren't good.
What?
The steak,
Mom,
the chopped steak was
Mom,
not
you can't
good.
tell people that on the video.
Well, it's true.
What is...
But I thank the Lord, we're still living.
Oh, my gosh.
And we're going to go to the church. We're going by Pearl Street AME to see if Dr. Boyd is back, so that we can have a meeting with him regarding Esther Sampson's book and her papers.
How was the trip yesterday?
The trip was wonderful.
The airplane ride was all right?
Yeah, until we got on the small
She's
American
about to give
Eagle.
another,
And it was real small, and when the guy behind us said, "Oh, this is really neat," it looks, it kind of looks like an airplane.
It kind of looks like an airplane.
Yeah, I wanted to get off at that point.
This would be good if it was an actual airplane. What
It was so little. It was scary, but it was nice. But Henry and I used to get on that plane all the time. I never thought about it. It was because
you
I
were
was
so
with
in
him.
love.
Yeah, I was in love. Yesterday, I said, I'm in trouble right now. I'm at Clifford.
Oh, thanks a lot.
I'm in trouble.
You don't love me, Mom?
Yes, I love you, but
Okay,
Robin loves you.
Okay, yes.
I appreciate you.
So we're headed to the church right now.
Okay, we're gonna call Dr. Boyd to see if he's back, because we had a meeting scheduled today for an hour and a half, and Dr. Williams told me that he had to go out about 11 o'clock. He had an emergency meeting, so I'll call him right now. If he's not there, we'll go return to the hotel.
Excellent. the
H.T. Sampson Library. This is the main library and it has 5 levels. There's this technology level over there.
It's so good to see you. So beautiful.
Thank you. And this is my son. You were here. You've been here a long time, have you?
I've been here 12 years.
And it was in 2011.
Okay.
2011 when Cliff, my son, and Dr. Henry Sampson Jr. were here, and you were behind
Yes,
that
ma'am.
desk,
Yes,
and he
ma'am.
said, "This is H.D. Sampson's son." Have shows with the posters that are on the wall here in the main entrance of the library. They would share posters and do professional shows and travel to universities, private exhibitions. And none of his things were for sale. It was all meant to come here, and many of these things are the only one. It's one of a kind. And I'm just amazed to see that it has been preserved like this. And they did a wonderful job. Now I understand why it took so long, but it was time well spent. I see that. It was well spent. A man's destiny, Professor. Look at this. All of these things, I thought they would be gone. I just didn't know what to expect. But I see that the university, not only did they do it, they did it right.
working with this collection for quite some time.
I want to thank you.
Yeah, so I appreciate it. But we want that second half so I can go and get this completed.
See that? You know what? It's done.
Okay, I
Because
appreciate it.
I see
Yeah,
what you're talking about.
yeah. And like I said, tried to make sure.
Somebody will come to California.
Exactly. And they'll have their hands full. They will have a handful.
So everything we put on exhibit are duplicates.
All right, but now downstairs we came in and the library was inundated. It was just beautiful. It was over.
They're all duplicates.
It was over.
Those are all duplicates.
I'm gonna show you where we put the original.
I made little programs. I put blank pages in there to give it,
That's
make it
cool.
look like a program, you know, so.
Yeah.
Dr. Druckery.
She's the dean of the library.
Hi, Dr.
Hello.
Tell me her name.
Pleasure to have
Mine
you
is
with us.
Darlita Ballard. I'm the university archivist.
And
Oh, yes.
she archived these things. Correct. Picking up the
Now,
boxes.
I
of
had
film.
help. I don't want to take all the credit
Well,
myself.
you were
I did
ahead of
have
it, though.
help. I have a co-worker named Crystal Brown who also assisted with the preservation of this collection. We also had through a grant another intern person named Kenan Brown. So I do want to give them credit. They did also assist with this process.
And it was fortunate, we actually had a grant before we received the Sampson collection. And it was for preservation.
Yes.
And the proposal that we wrote was for another collection.
Uh-huh.
But we finished that early.
Yes.
Finished it way under budget.
Oh, great.
And we asked them, we have just received something, can we maybe continue
Piggyback on this.
the grant with this? And they said, sure, we're okay with that.
Yeah, and so that's where the freezer came in at, and some of the supplies on that. Also, I wanted to show you where your originals are because
Yes.
I know you were concerned
Yes, I was.
about where those
And
originals
I'm
are.
sorry that happened. I don't, we don't know anything about that.
Well,
But rest
Ma'am, it's
assured,
just fine.
rest
Now,
assured.
the ones that you
It's just fun.
the ones that you
very
see out
sad.
here on the
Yes.
walls, the ones downstairs, and the ones back here in frames, the Development Foundation paid for those to be duplicated, and that's what's in there,
All
French.
right.
in the frame.
So somebody.
All of your originals, starting here, and I have them, the numbers first, and I have everything in here, alphabet size, A, all the way down to Z.
They're all in
order,
individual
and we have-
acid-free folders.
That's correct, and we have labels on them. This is 187, then we start with A, and they kind of go down from there. So everything here is ordered by title. And I have it only a few in each,
Look at
about
this.
10 to 15
Sydney.
in each. It's a piece of the action is the title to this one.
The co-porter?
And again, all of these were
These are the
measured.
originals.
These are your originals. Because if you notice,
my
we
God.
have this one. You see the size of this one?
Yes.
This one was blown up to the actual 42 by 72 size
they're hanging
that
in
you
there.
see hanging. Some of these were not actually 42 by 70. They were smaller in size, and what they
Some were,
did is blow them
Some were
up.
made smaller, some were, so the posters would all be the same size.
That's
So
correct.
that's why they kind of, played around with the
That is
dimensions.
wonderful.
So everything you see that you were concerned about
Yes.
is actually here. It's never left the library. The only thing
That's great.
that happened that they did, we did send them out
Yes.
to be duplicated, and that
Okay.
was, and Mr. Hoard worked with that process when we did this.
All right.
But we received everything back. I had an inventory of everything that went out to make sure that I received everything back. So, again,
These are the originals are
these
here.
are your originals.
Oh,
And
yay.
you will see stuff on this wall. I can show you this same thing in here
Yes.
as your original. So no, we
That is
just
wonderful.
duplicated everything. All
Look
of
at
the
this.
ones in frames are duplicated.
It is
See,
wonderful.
here's black gold. We have another black gold, but that's
Yes,
a duplicate.
yes.
The
And
black six.
I'm glad, Dr. Druckery, the university saw to it that there was money in the grant and that it could be used. And the timing,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, is just right.
Way down south, way down yonder. Welcome home, Brother Charles.
Alphabetized.
Yes, I have actually, we went through and made sure that everything here, and this is X logo, but we put Malcolm so
Malcolm's,
that,
yeah.
right, and I put it
Could
in
I see
X.
that?
Yeah, let's
Could
read.
I'm sorry. Yeah. Yeah.
Cliff, would you get this part of, this is Henry's original manuscript
Manuscripts.
of blacks and black and white.
Yeah, and I was showing her the preservation method. We do have the acid-free, lignin-free paper, and
You
we
see,
separate
David
the
Hoy
items
talked about
between
that
this.
all the
And
time.
we also have the labels, and it'll show you, these are materials that was in that binder. And I told her we kept all the materials from the binder together in the collection. So we started with A and just went through Z, and actually it's 3 boxes on that. So I labeled them based on how we organized them and based on how they came in the collection, because we didn't want to separate it and then we didn't know the significance of why he did it like that.
Right.
So we wanted to keep it how he had it.
Exactly, because he was
And so-
very exact. And there was a
Exact.
reason to the reason.
Right, and I didn't know that, so I wanted to try to keep it together as a whole,
Exactly.
and
I
that's what I
appreciate
did.
that. Look
And
at
that's
that.
why I put materials in binder.
Oh, yes.
And so you know exactly where this came from. These are the
Those are the
LPs.
33s, huh?
Right, and,
Oh my
and
gosh.
we did place them in new sleeves. We have to do labels, so we're
Yes.
still working on the
Yes.
labels for those.
Yeah.
However, we did do the measurement to purchase them so that they would be preserved correctly and archival, acid-free.
Where did you get these actual boxes from?
We went to Gaylord. Gaylord and is a archival company.
Okay.
That we normally will purchase archival materials
Right.
from. And there's 1 or 2 other companies also out there that's specific to archival material.
Right.
So what we do is kind of cross-check and see which one is the best deal and then use them.
Yeah, and all of these are under lock and key. You have to be in the
Yes.
key
Yes.
in order to get up to this floor
Yes.
even.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
Wow.
What is it?
This one is the March of Dimes 53.
That's yeah, that's bigger than the 33. So what is
Right. It is a 33 and 1/3.
that? Oh, okay.
And the other ones are 16.
Oh, okay.
You have 16 and then you have 8. So you got to actually measure them based on their size. And again, these are archival.
And those are very old.
These are very old. And we
1953.
have
And
some
I'm
of
from the
them.
March of Dimes today.
Yeah.
I was 6 years old when they
Right. And so we have.
I love the March of
Everybody,
Dimes.
yeah.
And we have 7 boxes based on the sizes, but all of these are sound recordings, LPs. These again are all in
We hold it for
archival.
you and you can,
In archival
Oh, we can sit it up
sleeves
here.
with, right, archival sleeves with the labels on them, and they're actually inside archival preservation. So all of them are alphabetical, and we have the titles, the same way we do the large size posters. And we have them A through Z.
And then you don't have to worry about
through the collection.
Okay, now you don't have to worry about if someone is looking at it because the way that
Right,
it's
it's
folded,
plastic over
you don't have to
there.
worry about it if it's held and it falls out because it's the
Right,
sleeve
it
is
locks
made
it in.
specifically
Wow.
for those to lock it in place.
Right.
right now, if there were people who wanted to come, they would call the library and ask for a,
They
An
that's
appointment.
make an
correct.
appointment
We
to
make
have
an
a showing.
appointment, and what we can do is we will pull the information out into the reading room, which is next to us.
Okay.
And we will have that appointment set for whatever time they need to come in, pull the
Yes.
material out that they're requesting, and have them come up and look at it.
Yes.
But we were working with faculty at one point to try to get where the collection, the faculty will come in and bring classes
Oh,
to
yes.
actually get them specific to the collection. Like I know there was some issues here recently about black and black face, but people don't know the history behind
Exactly. And the
that,
history
and we
is right
have,
here.
right, and we have some of that
They need
material
to
here,
understand
and so
what
we
it
wanted
really
to
was.
faculty to kind of get involved
Exactly.
with bringing their students in to
That's
do
right.
research.
Yes,
Yeah,
because
I
all we
posted that
have
this
is
morning.
what's
And
next.
I actually have that part at the end of my speech about how we want this collection to be used not only by students, faculty, staff, and administrators and community, but for research purposes to actually find out the history of the collection.
Yes.
And actually know what during that time from back in the 1800s up to present went on, and then how they even were made, because some of these have different paintings or different paper or different format on how it's in each container.
Right.
That's different than how they do things today. So it would be good for art. The sheet music would be good for the music. So
History.
exactly history. So English.
Yeah.
So there's a variety of things that this collection can be used for, and that's what we want to do down the line is bring people in. We were going to set that area up in the front to actually kind of make it like an area where we can bring students in and have teachers and classes where they can actually go through and kind of see the items, know what it's about. And if we don't, like I said, use the original, what we would probably do is make duplicate prints
Yes,
of
absolutely.
it prior to the class. That's
Yes.
why we want to do it
And
by
that's
appointment.
exactly
That way
what-
we won't
yes, that's
disturb
what we
the
want.
originals.
Right.
But
That's
we
what
will
we
keep
want.
the originals intact, but still allow access to it.
That's good.
And that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Saying let's be okay with having a conversation, you know, and you know, this generation, I think we are all a little sensitive with certain
Exactly.
things, and so it's been okay with. It's okay to have a conversation,
Yeah.
and it's okay to see different point of views.
You know, Spike Lee made a movie. The what is it? What is the name of that movie that he made with the black face? And I'll say you have a poster here. At least we have it at home.
Right.
Where they were talking about blackface. It's interesting.
Bamboozled?
Bamboozled.
Yes.
Yeah, and we should. You know, we're talking about it's current in the media, or at least as
Right.
of this month or last month.
Yes.
You know.
And then the amazing thing is, you got people, designers in the past, like the 80s, like Patrick Kelly, they used blackface in
Right.
his design.
Right.
But it wasn't spoken.
It wasn't a
of-
hot topic.
It wasn't a hot topic.
Right. Yeah.
Until the 21st century.
It's hot
22.
now.
It's hot now. Right.
Well, it'll be hot, and then next week
Yes,
something
yes.
else will be hot.
But the students need to understand
Yeah.
that there's a history here, and it's a history that's told by an African American man. And Henry is considered the executive of this kind of material.
Yes.
Yeah, he
When
knows
people
it.
want to do research, doctoral research, they come to him.
Right.
In Europe, the books are everywhere. Yes.
Again,
yes.
by
Look at
the
that, look at
title.
that.
But what we did is cut out the acid-free, lignin-free, and we separated them in between so that you know
What did he-
this
what
is
did he-
at the Waters and Dudley. And again,
Classic
we
writing. Is that
right.
Henry's writing? Probably not.
Ethel Waters.
And Eddie Dudley.
Let me see the S. Yes. That is his writing. No, but the more he got into writing, the less you could tell what he was writing.
This is the tape that we use to seal the canisters closed right here. This is 3mm scotch. We sealed them around here once we put them in. And then we placed them inside the Mylar sleeves.
Yes.
And then we sealed and made sure that even with the angles that we got them
preserve them.
appropriately so that no air can get in. And we sealed these and taped them all together. And then we had each one labeled. So what I did is I put them in the freezer based on size but by alphabet. Like it's about 10 or so on each row, and then I have rows listed, and they start from the back and then go down, and then I come back to the next row and go right back
I
down.
see, I
So I
see.
got them organized.
I see.
So when I say, for instance, if it's an emergency and we do have to pull them, then I'll know specifically what row, what part of the freezer to pull it from. So I have everything organized, like second shelf. I go down to the second shelf. This is what's on my second shelf. Here, and go down
We're
here.
not going to open this now.
But I was there, I have photos that I can see.
Right,
so
and
you
see,
can
I have
see.
the locks on
Yeah,
here,
yeah.
and the reason I did that is because when you're doing freezing of a preservation,
Yes.
you don't want to keep opening up and
closing.
down
Yeah,
the
you're
freezer
changing.
because then you're changing the temperature,
course, and it's
which
like
could
baking a cake.
actually mess with the preservation of the material. That's why we made sure that they were on digital prior to freezing. That way we wouldn't have to be taking them out. Because if you can only, if we do have to take them out, you can only take them out a lifespan of 2 or 3 times.
Yes,
That's
and
it,
then that
because
it'll
you'll
destroy 'em.
if you don't.
Yeah,
That's
but
correct.
you transfer them to digital.
Yes.
Yes, but see, that's
Wow.
on University, the Development Foundation had that done on Mr. Cord at
David
Crawford
Hort said he was
Media
doing that.
in Atlanta, Georgia. That's
He
correct.
told us that
And
that
when
was
they
going
came
on.
back, they went to University Communications.
Okay.
So they have them. We hadn't received them over here
Okay,
yet,
okay.
but they do have them, and they were done.
Excellent.
So we had that done prior to us freezing them because
Yeah.
all of this actually went out to Crawford Media and then they returned it to me. When they returned, it turned in boxes like that. I had
Yes.
packed them in
Yes.
cases and had them evenly done with bubble paper
yes.
in there to keep them from shifting around. So when everything came back, they did have on there that one box didn't,
That, yes.
right,
And
they
I-
were not able to do anything
Yes.
with it.
I asked
and
her
we're
to
gonna
send me
return
that because I would like to keep that. Because when people are asking, they can't always see the video or the DVD, but I can show them that and say, it's all like this, except these were gone.
Right.
And that's
exactly.
that's a lot of information.
Right, but this is again to continue. At the very bottom of the shelves on this side, what I did is put the larger 32, 33, the bigger size, and what I did is I put them together and then I also did them by alphabet, as you see here.
Pictures of it. Oh my God! Thank you for being here. And you're in Omega.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
So
ma'am.
is Andrew. He started with Omega at Purdue. Came in 4 others. Thank you very, very much, Jackson State. I am so excited. Before I knew it, I was downstairs on the first floor, just weeping and crying. When I saw the work, I was overcome with happiness, not grief, but I was crying tears of joy. I was so pleased and so honored for Henry and for the Sampson family. And I'm pleased to tell you that I'm the daughter-in-law of the man whose name is on the top of this building. So there, let me go ahead and read my speech. It'll take 10 minutes if I don't ad-lib. That's what my son told me to do. Mother, just read it. So here we go. I'm honored to stand here and say to Jackson State University, my name is Mrs. Henry Thomas Sampson, Jr., also known as Dr. Laura Housel Young-Sampson. I learned that when I was at a computer, I Googled my name, and it came up, Dr. Henry Thomas Sampson. I went, oh, that's shocking. When you Google your name and your husband's name comes up. Henry was really a genius, and he was renowned for what he did, but so humble, very humble. Okay, thank you, Jackson State, for making this day possible. President Dr. William Bynum, Dr. Melissa Druckery, yes, Darlita Ballard, where's Darlita? She's been putting up with us for about an hour and a half, just taking us through everything. The university archivist, Evangeline Robinson, who's no longer here, but I know her very well. She was at the beginning of this, along with Mr. David Hort, who visited our home in California many times over this, and we talked several times on the telephone. Dr. Mary White, was Mrs. White ever able to come? Okay, I wanted to say hello to her. Miss Tammy Brooks, where's Tammy? Hi, Tammy. Reverend Samuel Henry Boyd. I like that name. Got Henry in the middle. Dr. Boyd is a pastor of, as you know, of Pearl Street AME Church. Mrs. Constance Lawson, Chief Development Officer, and Mrs. Dr. soon-to-be Dr. Monica Lewis, the Development Foundation individual who was very patient and kind and helpful with me. We talked many, many, many times to make this day come together. I would also like to thank my son, Clifford Young Jr., and I'm glad to say, yes, he is a graduate of USC, but we didn't pay to have him put into USC. He got in there on his own recognizance. Just thought I'd put that down. He also, Clifford also holds a master's degree in psychology with a concentration in marriage and family therapy. Currently, he is a senior pastor of a church in Lomita, California. The name of the church is New Hope Christian Center. He is the senior pastor. He is married to my beautiful daughter-in-law, Robin Nelson Young, and I'm pleased to say that I have 2 grandchildren. Clifford Odell Young III, who is 17, and he is graduating this next month. Wants to go into medicine, and that's kind of a thing in our family. So there you are, and I have a beautiful granddaughter. Her name is Catherine Olivia Young, and Catherine is wonderful and brilliant. She is 14. So forgive me for bragging on my grandchildren, but you know, we have a chance. I had this Clifford, when I was 27 years old. He is now 44 years old. So now, if you're interested in my age, do the math. You'd be real interested in that. All right. It was a long wait for me and Henry for this day to witness the outcome of our donation to the university. We knew that one day the university would open the doors on our donation to Jackson State University. 2 other universities requested the materials. Henry said, no, my research is going to Jackson State University. Yes. Now I need to say something that's very, very important. In the word, Isaiah chapter 40, verse 31, the New King James Version says, but they that wait upon the Lord shall renew their strength. They shall mount up with wings as eagles. They shall run and not be weary. They shall walk and not faint. Psalms 27:14 has this to share. Wait on the Lord. Wait on the Lord. Be of good courage, and he shall strengthen thine heart. Wait, I say, on the Lord. Many people visited Henry and me in Palos Verdes, California, and they asked Henry, where are you going to donate your materials to? He said to Jackson State University, and they said, that's not going to happen. That's what I said, Doctor. That stuck with me. Henry passed away in my arms 3 years ago on June the 4th. Year 1 after that passed by. Year 2 after that passed by. Year 3 passed by. I hadn't heard. And it was a good thing because the Lord has some things in mind for me. 2 knee surgeries, a left and right knee surgery. Notice I was sitting down over there. And a heart complication that threw me. I didn't realize I had been struck that hard by the death of my husband, but I was. And it took me a year to come around to the health that I now appreciate. So had Jackson State gotten in touch with me before then, it wouldn't have worked. So praise the Lord. That's why I said, wait on the Lord. He always knows what to do.
Always.
He knows what he's doing. now we are here, and this is the historical moment we've both waited for, and my family and Henry's family, we've been waiting anxiously, and so now we're all honored. The history of Henry, you heard a little bit there. I'm going to go through this quickly because some of it is repetitious. Henry's mother was Esther Bertha Ellis Sampson Marshall. Now that's a lot of names, but she was the first wife of H.T. Sampson, and after he passed and after Mr. Marshall's wife passed, they were joined, and that's where I stand right now. I don't know Mr. Marshall. I did not know my father-in-law, but I know plenty about him, and I've got lots and lots of pictures. He was a young man when he passed away years ago, as Dr. Peoples and I were talking about it. All right. Henry wrote 7 books, including Blacks in Black and White, That's Enough, Folks, which is about cartoons, Blacks and Blackface, volumes 1 and 2, edition number 1 and edition number 2, A Source, Swinging on the Ether Waves. It's about radios, and it goes back from the Civil War up until about 1970. And then I'll say The Ghost Walks. Now I like to tell people The Ghost Walks talks about the history of African American performers who would get with an entertainer, the leader, and he would take them to different parts of the United States and they would perform. And the night before the final performance was over, after it was over, the manager would leave and leave all of the people there not paid and no transportation home. So that's what The Ghost Walks is about. That's Enough, Folks talks about the historical significance of cartoons. And some of our cartoons are very, very, well, they're just different. You'll be surprised, those of you who are teaching here, when you see a cartoon like that, it'll really hurt you because you'll realize that it's beautiful, it's history, but that's how it was viewed by America. When Catherine and Clifford III were little children, Henry showed them John Brown. And the little cartoon, John Brown's body lay molded in the grave. When they got through, he says, let's give them something to watch. He put the cartoon on. I gave it back about 6 minutes and they were all crying. I said, Henry, why did you put that on? They're crying. He says, that's right, they need to know that. Yeah, he died, but he beat the train. Henry's grandfather, Tellis B. Ellis, took Henry to minstrel shows when he was 7 years old. And that's how he got interested in writing about black performances, concert, jazz, and blues. And the minstrel shows, whenever the dancers were up and they got a little too carried away, his grandfather, T.B. Ellis, would just put his hand over Henry's eyes until it was safe for him to look again. He was a young child, but it made quite an impression upon him. And that's how it is that he's writing all of this historically. Henry remembers a career day when he was at Morehouse. He had done the first and second year, and that year changed his life. There was what you call a career day at Morehouse, and Henry wasn't really invited because he was a sophomore, but he went in anyway, and it started him wanting to see what Purdue was all about. He said always, I did not invent the cell phone. And I must say that, standing here as his mouthpiece, I must say what he said. Henry's journey from Jackson, Mississippi to West Lafayette, Indiana occurred thanks to the intervention of an unknown Purdue graduate. Henry says, I was attending Morehouse in Atlanta. I went to senior career day. Even though I was a sophomore, I spoke to a Pfizer rep, a Purdue graduate who bragged about Purdue. I worked in Chicago that summer, and so I took the bus to West Lafayette to check out Purdue. When I walked over the bridge, it was love at first sight. I knew it was my college, my university. I called my mother and father after spending the entire day at Purdue, and I said to my mom and dad, I'm not going back to Morehouse. And Esther reported to me that she cried for 2 days. And his father, H.D. Sampson, said, leave him alone. If that's what he wants to do, let's support him. And that's how he got into it, because he wanted chemical engineering. All right? He was prepared excellently at Purdue. He said everything he knew about chemical engineering, he learned at Purdue. Henry was also a member of the Omega Psi Phi Fraternity Incorporated while earning his bachelor's degree at Purdue. So he and a few other young men got together and started it, and it still goes strong today. He's an Omega. On October 22nd, 2009, the School of Chemical Engineering honored Dr. Henry Sampson with the Outstanding Chemical Engineer Award. We went to that. He had not yet had a stroke, and we were having fun. We went everywhere. We were all over the place, and everyone was honoring him, and it was fun. It was great. The School of Chemical Engineering has a tradition of recognizing alumni who have achieved distinction as leaders in their careers and who have shaped the chemical engineering profession. Over the years, only 121 of the 9,000 alumni have been accorded with this prestigious award. Henry was raised here in Jackson. He graduated from Lanier High School, and he was raised in a Christian home with Christian parents who loved the Lord, and they were very serious and very concerned about him being raised in a Christian environment and a Christian home, and that's exactly what they did. He attended Morehouse College for 2 years and then transferred to Purdue. Then he got his bachelor's degree at Purdue in chemical engineering in 1956. He worked as a research chemical engineer in the United States Naval Weapons Center in China Lake, California. Many of your things online will say he was in the Navy, but he was not. He was a Navy fellow, and that's what it was. His work was in the area of high-energy solid propellants and case bonding materials for solid rocket motors. He earned his master's degrees from UCLA, and he earned a second master's degree and a PhD from the University of Illinois at Urbana-Champaign in 1965 and 1967. Dr. Peoples was very much involved in where the boys went to school and helping Henry Sr. help them get organized and ready to go on. And I just wanted to say that Dr. Peoples. Henry then moved to Aerospace Corporation in El Segundo, California, where he served as the director of the mission development and operations of space test programs. He also led the engineering staff in the planning, acquisition, development, launching, and space operation in several satellites. So when you saw a satellite go up in California, the chances are, or in other places, Henry was involved in that. He was one of the earliest engineers to examine how to power satellites. All right. Sampson has written a number of papers on rocket propulsion, direct conversion of nuclear energy to electricity, and computer simulation of electrical systems. He pioneered a study of internal ballistics of solid rocket motors using high-speed photography. He has written several technical papers and has been granted patents. In 1971, he invented the gamma electric cell, which makes it possible, or made it possible, to receive and to send audio signals by way of radio waves without wires. Now, I need to say that again, because that's why people get it confused. He did the gamma electric cell that made it possible to receive and send audio signals by way of radio waves without wires. This scientific technology was used to eventually urge production of the cell phone. Okay? If you say he invented the cell phone once he got up at a dinner, we weren't married yet, he said, "Thank you very much for honoring me. My name is Henry Sampson, and I did not invent the cell phone." And then he sat down. Oh, okay. And then I kicked him. Then he said, "Ow!" Just like that. You didn't have to do that. Okay, during the centennial meeting in Philadelphia in November 2008, Dr. Sampson was honored among 20 chemical engineers in other pursuits. Henry is the recipient of a variety of awards, including the Atomic Energy Commission Award, 1964 to 1967, the Black Image Award from Aerospace Corporation in 1982, Blacks in Engineering, Applied Science and Education Award, and Los Angeles Council of Black Professional Engineers 1983, and was named a Fellow in the U.S. Navy 1962 to 1964. There are many, many, many other awards honoring Henry, too numerous to mention here. In addition to his work in engineering fields, Dr. Sampson is a writer, a historian, a film historian, and a film producer who focuses on African American presence in the film industry and the entertainment industries. He is the revered expert in this field, portraying African Americans in movies, television, cartoons, and radios. And that's as much as I can share with you in this little bit of time about Henry Thomas Sampson Jr., my husband. Thank you.
So thank you for all that you have done and all that has been contributed on behalf of Jackson State University. Now, the second thing I need to do is to take a seat. Take a seat and allow somebody who knows far more about what's going on, of course, with this today, and that is Dr. Peoples himself. Of course, he is a revered, as I'm always honored to be in his presence, and the fact that, again, he had an opportunity to be here doing some of what has occurred, had an opportunity, of course, to know Dr. Sampson, to know T.B. Ellis and all those. If you would, join me at this time and welcome again President Emeritus Dr. John Peoples to this.
I wish my voice could carry like yours. First of all, allow me to back up a generation. This library was named after Henry T. Sampson Sr.
Right.
Who was, in a very large sense, my mentor. As a matter of fact, the first time I met Dean Sampson was when he called me. Well, I was just out of the Marine Corps and went back to start from my hometown to decide where to go to college. My principal told me to go to Jackson College for Negro teachers and talk to Dean Sampson. Would you please talk to my principal? And so he did call, and so he did accept me. I have that letter today. He told me that he could accept me. I was about to transfer to Tougaloo. At any rate, when I got to Jackson State for Negro teachers, the emphasis was on training rural Negro teachers. A lot of stuff that I didn't want. So I had been a radio tech in the Marine Corps, and I knew a lot of stuff that they didn't even know about here. And they had a lot of what they call practical problems for rural teachers. I didn't want to take that. I was about to transfer. But Dean said, if you stay here, I'll let you take courses with the juniors and seniors if you stay here. So I stayed, and so the rest is, in one sense, history. But later on, Dean Sampson, he also taught mathematics as well as being the dean. And so he influenced me to be a mathematician. At least I wanted to be one. So when I got my degree, he also said you should go to Chicago. I'd been told, don't you go there, man, you'll never get out. They'll bump you for sure. And they are pretty rough. When I got there, the first thing I did was to look up Dean Sampson's dissertation, the motion of a point on a plane curve. I got that and read that. And so, but then there was another man who influenced me, Jacob Analytics. He kept coming up there and he said, look, if you become a president, you'll have mathematicians working for you. So he influenced me eventually to change my emphasis to higher administration. And he pursued me until I finally came back here. But I just want you to know that I really thought we were coming here for this collection for H.T. Sampson Sr., not Jr. In fact, I was not aware that Henry T. Jr. was passed. I was not informed. But I just do remember Dean talking to me about his boys. He said that I want you to watch my boys as they move ahead and go into Morehouse. But later on, when they transferred to Purdue, I was a high school teacher at Fraser High School in Gary, and I had the duty of being a chaperone for a basketball team going to Lafayette to play basketball. So when I got there, I looked up these Sampson boys, and so they invited me to lunch on the Purdue campus. They called me had pizza. First time I had pizza.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. Okay.
But anyway, I have so much been involved with the Sampsons. Now, John Sampson Jr., I think, his father called me and said he wanted to want him to come to Jackson State.
Yes, and he did.
He did come to Jackson State.
All right. Okay.
And he was a pre-med major.
All right.
A very sharp kid. As you know, he now is a very famous physician.
Yes.
But he and I became very good friends. In fact, I had him up to try to be a Rhodes Scholar at one point in time.
All right.
But I thought we were going to be here today, fellowship. I just wanted to say how much I have been involved with the Sampson family. Esther Sampson, I was the mother of these the two boys.
Yeah, John and Henry.
Yeah. In fact, she and my wife were in the so-called Faculty Bridge Club before they left here. So I just wanted to tell you how much I have been involved and how honored I am to be here today to be a part of this event. It just goes without saying that this is a great event. And this library had gone through so many phases, It's just fantastic today. But I believe the first addition to it was under my administration. We went back across the back street there. Now it's about 4 or 5 times as large, but I do recall when we first made an addition to it. So thanks again, Dr. Biden, for allowing me to make a few remarks.
You're welcome indeed, Doctor.
I'm happy to have known Dr. Sampson and have known the man who had done so much.
We've had so many people helping us with the collection. I see Miss Brooks, she was very instrumental in the early days. And if I'm overlooking anyone, please forgive me. But Mr. Giles, who just left, he was very helpful as well. But you can't do it by yourself, so we have depended upon the assistance of other people, other organizations for grants, which we have received to help develop the collection. It's an important collection. I shall never forget, I mentioned to Dr. Young-Sampson this morning, I received a telephone call from President Mason one morning, and he said to me, "So what is it about this Sampson collection? Do you think we need it?" And I said, "Oh, absolutely. We cannot neglect getting this collection and bringing it to Jackson State University." So, through the auspices of the Development Foundation, we were able finally to do this. And I said also, Dr. Young-Sampson, Dr. Sampson must have been a very patient man because he was relentless. It had to come to Jackson State. And we're so very, very glad that it did. Thank you all for attending. It's a beautiful day, and I'm so happy to say we have an overflow crowd. So we're going to open up the reception, the food table right now. Please help yourself. There is extra seating in the reading room. We'll make an exception for today. Please help yourself and enjoy. And once again, thank you all so very, very much. I'm sorry. I neglected to say, of course, we thank Dr. Bynum for joining us, but Dr. Peoples was my president when I was a student way back when. So it's a special joy to see Dr. Peoples.
No doubt. I understand.